Welcome to the Eclectic Collection. Episode 18 today. The Sandbar Extravaganza. Gotta love it. Okay, so I'm obsessed with Brigantine. Get over it. I'm sorry. It's the beginning of summer and I'm just going to be talking about my favorite island in the world. It's nostalgia. And quite frankly, it's been quite a long year. As a matter of fact, I think it's been 2 years packed in one, if I am actually doing the math correctly. So there is my beloved island, and we used to go all the time, every weekend, down to the shore, if you will, because that's what we say in Delco, the shore. It's not the beach. And I was 5, so this is a while ago. We're talking like, maybe 1979. And my sister took her blue Mercury Bobcat down the shore, as well as my mom and dad had the car and all. We had an old Pontiac, and my dad had a truck at the time. And she had brought her car down because there was a lot of people there that weekend. I'd like to point out that this Bobcat started out white, and then my brother painted it. It was like his car, then he gave it to her. He bought a Bronco, lots of cars. He used to work for Ford Lincoln Mercury, and we're Ford people, so we always had Ford Lincoln Mercurys. I digress. Anyhow, we had this great little Bobcat, and it was just like a random afternoon, and we had come back from the beach, and we were waiting to go to the infamous Brigantine Castle that night. I'm sure my parents were headed to Harrah's, and might have actually been right before Harrah's. They were probably still going to Caesars at the time, or resorts with my uncle. And she said, let's go take a drive on the island. Well, the island's 7 miles long, so that drive is never going to be that particularly long. So I said, okay, so I went with her. It was like 4 o'clock-ish, like late afternoon. And at the end of the island, there's a golf course. And you could see the bay. And at the time, there was this very big open sand lot where you could see the water pretty easily and the jetty without having to walk down on the rocks. So she pulled in there, and we were looking at the water and just kind of chilling out for half an hour or so. No big deal. And it was sand, gravel, but sand, really, just lots of it. And now that's all since been construction beyond, and there's all these obnoxious high-rise things or wannabe 2-3 story bits of condo instead of the quaint little houses that belong there. But again, I digress. Don't get me started. So we're looking at the water, and I had come back from the beach with them earlier, and it was just my sister and myself, and she said, okay, you want to go? And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, maybe we'll go get Dairy Queen, because at the time there was a Dairy Queen, which has turned into a Richmond's on the island. And I said, oh, okay, that's cool. Never have to convince a little kid to get ice cream twice. So she's like, yeah, we'll drive around the other part and we'll go there, because we had a couple hours to kill, and it was summer and we weren't in a rush. I got to get back in the car. Car was good, solid, starts up, no problem. She goes to pull forward, puts the car in drive, and it's just not going anywhere. You hear this terrible vroom, vroom noise. I'm thinking, uh-oh. She's like, I think we're stuck. I said, stuck? We're on flat sand. What do you mean? She's like, I think we're stuck. And it was particularly hot that day, but it was sand. It wasn't quicksand that I knew of, so what's going on? So she's like, all right, let me turn the car off, get out of the car. So she turns the car off, we get out of the car, and we walk around the back, and the front tires were okay, but the back 2 tires, although we didn't really have anything in the car at all, just us, and we were in the front, the back 2 tires were definitely lower and a bit sunk into what became a divot that I guess was a soft spot in the sand. I was like, uh-oh, what are we going to do? Now, you have to understand, from a 5-year-old perspective, I really believed that this was going to be my new residence forever, and flash forward to some scene in the Sahara Desert where you walk for years and you get nowhere and die of, exposure to the elements and dehydration. Like, I'm 5, so what do I know? I feel like 7 miles might as well be 1,000, and I'm never going to get back to the house or see my family again, and my sister and I are doomed on this little sandbar. But in reality, she was more together than I was, because she was a teenager at the time. So she's like trying to push the car a little bit, and she's like, here, come help me, and we're trying to push the car. She's like, all right, wait, I'm going to put the car in neutral, and I just knew that was the big N, and she's like, I'm going to try and push it. I said, okay. So we put the car in neutral, and we tried to push it, and it was just sinking deeper into this little divot that has now created into a gully. And I'm looking around thinking, okay, bay to the left, golf course to the right, and here I am stuck in the middle with you. Like, can't get out, can't do anything. And it's just getting worse. And she needed to be able to start to try and drive it, but while pushing it, but I'm 5 and she's the driver. So, of course, she does what any smart teenager would do. She's like, all right, get in the seat. She starts the car for me and then tells me to hold the brake and then try to hit the gas and she'll push. Probably the dumbest idea, but yet, the smartest idea at the time. It was the best bad idea we had. Let's put it that way. So I barely reached the pedals, of course, and I'm afraid I'm going to either not do it strong enough or go flying and kick up sand in her face and I'll like crash into something and she's going to like flop into the hole. It's a bad scene. So it doesn't work. Needless to say, it's just kicking up sand and it's getting worse and worse and the divot's getting bigger and bigger. And now this huge gully. So she's like, okay, stop. So she comes back to the car and, I put it in park and I get out and she tries again and tells me to push and no, it's not working. So she's like, we're going to have to dig out. What do we have? So she goes to her trunk. There's like a blanket, a beach chair, a beach ball, and a crowbar, because back then they actually gave you real tires instead of donuts. And that was it. And she's kind of chunking at it with the crowbar, but it's a long, thin rod. It's not a shovel. It's not going to do anything. So I said, wait, I have my bucket and my shovel from the beach. So I go in the back like I'm being helpful, open the back door, and here's this little, actually it was a 2-door, more to think about it. There's this little, I'm confusing that with her Lynx, which was a different story for another day. I have this little dollar store, like surf shop, Joe Seaside Market, sundries kind of plastic, colorful bucket and shovel that's a joke and holds maybe 10 ounces of sand. And I'm like, me to the rescue. So I bring it in the back and, hey, we're desperate. She starts using the little plastic shovel to try and dig out. And I'm using the bucket upside down trying to pull out sand. And we keep trying and trying. This goes on for the better part of what seemed like a year, but I'm pretty sure it was actually only about an hour. And luckily, after much defeat, this nice guy comes by with his son. It was like a dad and his kid that were going to, I think, go out on the jetty or launch a boat nearby or something, and pulled over, I think, to see where the launch pad was and just happened to fall upon us. And he's like, you okay? And that was, of course, in the 70s when you could talk to strangers and no one got killed and it was totally fine. And everybody actually trusted people. And there weren't psychopaths aplenty like there are now. And she said, no, we're stuck. I can't get the car out. And all we got is this. And we're laughing because the guy immediately cracked up with the little plastic shovel and bucket, which was just priceless. To this day, we joke about it. It's become one of our things that we say to each other when we're in a desperate situation. I'm like, yeah, well, you always got the plastic shovel and bucket we could whip out. So they were super kind. Asked my sister to get in the car. I stood out and waited. She turned the car on, and they, of course, pushed while she, accelerated the car, and it came right out with 2 full adults, being able to get it out of there, and it popped out of the little sand gully, and she got safely to the edge where gravel was and got out and thanked them, and I was able to get in the car, and we were able to drive away. And the funny thing is, we weren't gone that long because we were going to go, quote unquote, take a drive. And again, nobody really knew in the fam what had happened. And I don't believe we disclosed because I don't think she really wanted to hear about it from my dad or my brother being like, oh, I can't believe you did that. Well, of course it's sand. Yeah, like they knew. They didn't know. You don't know if you're going to get stuck in the sand. It's one of those ridiculous things that parents say. My mom's notorious for this. Well, if you weren't on that road, you wouldn't have been in the accident. No, Mom. Actually, things just happen. It's called fate, and you don't really know. What happened was what was supposed to happen and is what's happening. So just deal with it because it is what it is. Anyhow, it was all's well that ends well, but we never told that story. I mean, we did to each other and lots of other people, just not our family. So the more I think about it, yeah, family, if you're listening, we were stuck. But we're good. And you know that because we came home. So, if you find yourself in a desperate situation, you can always dig out. Just hope for nice strangers that come by. Actually, you never know when you're going to get help, actually. It's just one of those things. You would be surprised. I think that when you least expect it in both a good and bad way. Sometimes when you don't think you're going to have help, it just appears in the most angelic of ways or the best scenario you could possibly think of. And sometimes when you think everything's smooth sailing, it completely backfires. So we went out for an innocent drive, massive backfire, end up in a very sticky situation, or in this case, sandy situation, and our wonderful little sandbar look at the water turned into a nightmare. But it's okay because then we got help and all's well that ends well. So it was a good day when all was accounted for. If you like today's story, check us out at eclecticcollectionpodcast.com or follow us on your preferred platform. I'm Terry Tenaglia. Thanks for listening.